Good evening. My name is Carla Moreno. I'm a student at Florida National University. And the purpose of this video is to present the topic that I have selected for the Capstone project class taught by Dr. Jose Perez. Now, the topic that I have chosen is sociological perspective in the study of crime, and I will talk a little bit more about what that entails, as well as the reasons why I chose this topic. Now, the purpose of the project is to look at crime and study crime through the eyes of sociology. Now, sociology is a field of study that looks at an individual in their context of their relationship, their circumstances, their culture, religion, race, social class, location of residence, meaning what state, what country, as well as other elements surrounding that person. Just to understand human action. So in this specific case where we're studying crime, what we really want to understand is why people engage in criminal behavior in the first place. Now, the objective of this project is to study crime through the lenses of sociology with the purpose of finding alternative approaches to respond to delinquency. Okay, now the hypothesis applied to this project is, can applying a sociological perspective to justice lead to more restorative practices in the criminal justice system? Now, what brings us here, right? What led me to research about this topic in the first place? Now, what we have now in our criminal justice system is hard-on crime policies that are usually followed by police enforcing police patrolling in low-income neighborhoods, because we know that usually the predominant rates of people that are incarcerated or that have contact with the criminal justice system are poor, uneducated minority groups, right? So this hard-on crime policies primarily affects this population. So our courts, as a result of these hard-on crime policies, are overwhelmed with cases, and our prisons are overpopulated. So it is up to us as a society and as a community to find alternative approaches to view crime if we really wish to reduce it. Now, this topic came initially from a concept that was taught to us early in the program in a class called Courts and Society, where the concepts of crime control model and due process model were introduced. Now, these are two types of principles, of values that compete with each other in the criminal justice system. So the crime and control model is basically this hard-on crime policies, right? So presuming that the person is guilty, what this model wishes to accomplish is just to have a speedy trial, a speedy charge and incarceration of a person, just to get the process done as quickly as possible. While the due process model falls into a more progressive type of view, and it basically focuses on protecting the rights of the defendant, right? So making sure that any evidence obtained at trial is obtained by legal means, right? And to ensure that the defendant is getting effective legal counsel, right? So what are some of the questions that guided the research? So when we look at a person in the context of their circumstances, right, we want to ask ourselves, what types of trauma has this person suffered? What underlying conditions are affecting the actions of this individual? It might be a substance abuse condition, or aggression, or a mental health disorder. Does this person have access to basic resources such as quality education, food, affordable and dignifying living conditions? If not, why? We know that a lot of the reasons why people would engage in criminal behavior in the first place is lack of access to resources, right? So we as a society need to ask ourselves, is our priority to punish or to rehabilitate people? Because after the prison sentence, is that person going to be able to re-enter the community as a functional being, or is a criminal charge going to follow this person, so that they're not able to find any types of job, and they end up going back to the cycle where they have to engage in criminal behavior once again in order to make a living, right? So, to understand a little bit about criminology, criminology is the multidisciplinary study of crime, delinquency, and criminal behavior. So, there's a lot of perspectives that are used in criminology in order to study criminal behaviors, such as the psychological one that looks at cognitive aspects, as well as the biological and neurological one. As I said before, we're going to be focusing on the sociological perspective. So, sociological criminology is the practice of analyzing crime from a sociological point of view. So, what I like about sociological criminology is that it focuses on not seeing the offender as a bad person, but trying to understand what's behind that, what led them to that. And criminal behavior in sociology is considered to be a normal response to extreme social circumstances. So these are some factors that contribute to criminal behavior. So we want to talk about dysfunctional family dynamics, a hostile view of relationships, which is formed in the early stages of a person's life, where they don't form a bond with their caretaker, right? So usually we would have a normal bond with a caretaker would be one where the child feels safe, feels that it's cared for. But on the opposite side, when a child experiences neglect, or some type of abuse, right? So what happens there is that a person grows up to have a hostile view of relationships, and this is actually one of the contributing factors for people that engage in criminal behavior. So another thing is growing up in a subculture that legitimizes criminal behavior, because whether because a person is persistently exposed to deviant peer groups, or because criminal behavior is rewarded as opposed to punished, right? So subcultures where it's seen as cool to do certain things, or to be hypersensitive to disrespect, right? What some would call the code of the street. So the view of relationships and of the surroundings of a person definitely are a big factor in that contributes to people engaging in criminal behavior. So there are some theories that in sociology that try to explain why people engage in criminal behavior in the first place. There are the three main ones: strain, social learning, and control theory, as well as other ones that are less used. Now, I don't really want to focus on the theories as well as this part, right? So after we gain an understanding of why people commit crimes in the first place, we need to get to this point, which is, how do we focus on rehabilitation instead of punitive measures, right? So now we understand why people commit crimes, why people engage in crimes, right? So what do we want to do with that information? Why is this important to us? Why is it important for us to know this? So now with this information, we can try and shift our criminal justice system to practice a more rehabilitative approach. Now, the first thing that we should do to shift is recognize and identify the resources that are already available in our community that serve for rehabilitation, right? So some of these resources are problem-solving courts. So a problem-solving court is a court that deals with specific types of cases. So cases of domestic abuse, or selling and trafficking or consumption of drugs, or homelessness courts, or prostitution courts, right? So these courts deal only with X or Y types of cases. And what I like about them is that they focus on rehabilitation. So they send people to therapy, to groups, they put people on outpatient programs, inpatient programs, depending on the need of the person. They also can impose prison sentences if need be, but they have a more rehabilitative approach. So another resource that we have available is inpatient or outpatient treatment, right? So you can be it can be court mandated, but it can also be by a referral of a hospital, right? Or by, somebody just thinking that they need the treatment. So inpatient treatment, a person gets 24-hour, medical attention, right? The person resides in a substance-free facility, getting the help that they need. And that help can be different types of therapy, or maybe disintoxication, or if we're talking about a substance abuse problem. And outpatient treatment is more, the person doesn't have to be inside a facility, but they can do their daily activities, they can go to work, but also attend their regular sessions with a psychiatrist or a psychologist, or a case manager, right? So case management is a big one for me because I said earlier that one of the main reasons why people would engage in crime in the first place is lack of resources. Now, case management is a community resource that is available for people, and what case managers do is help people, primarily people with low income, low access to resources. They help them get resources, right? So if a person doesn't have medical insurance, a case manager would refer them to a place where that has a low cost, or they would find a way to waive the fees for medical care. If a person needs help paying electricity bills, or getting medication, or receiving treatment. So a case manager will find the resources that are out there and will refer you, will link you, would give you a letter if you need to go to a place, to a specific place, with a letter of referral. So a case management will ultimately sit with you, assess your needs, and will help you. If you have an issue with immigration status, whatever it is, a case manager is a person that's going to be assisting you, monitoring your situation, helping you fill out forms. If it's food stamps, if you need to apply for disability income because you have an underlying mental disorder, a mental health condition that does not allow you to work, or you have a physical condition, a case manager would take care of that for you. So also social programs. When I say social programs, I am going to put this example. So I know that the Miami-Dade County was working together with the 11th Circuit Court with a social program that focused on substance abuse. So this program, aside from sending people to rehabilitation, they also did this thing where first offenders for any crimes that had to do with drug consumption would be dealt with as addicts as opposed to offenders, right? They would treat it as if, this person has a charge for something that has to do with illegal substance consumption. Okay, so let's have this person treated, okay, instead of immediate prison sentence, right? So basically, what we want to achieve with listing all these community resources is to put an emphasis on how necessary they are, how valuable they are, how much they help people, and how it is possible to shift our policy making and our funding for programs that actually help rehabilitate people, as opposed to sending them to prison, right? And then having them have, a criminal record that makes it harder for them to live their lives after. It's harder to get an apartment, it's harder to get a job, it's harder